Political reform. We want to ensure that your voice is heard, and we want to transfer power back to the people. The shambolic Conservative government has created a crisis for democracy in this country with their cronyism, rule-breaking and constant sleaze scandals. Successive Conservative Prime Ministers have acted without integrity and treated Parliament and the people with disdain. It is a symptom of a broken political system which enables the government to take families up and down the country for granted. It is clear that we need a political system with fair representation so that politics is made to work for you again. Liberal Democrats want to begin to repair the damage that has been done by the constant stream of Conservative sleaze and to end the era of neglect. We will ensure no politician can take you for granted by introducing proportional representation by the single transferable vote for electing MPs and local councillors in England. Strengthen democratic rights and participation by scrapping the Conservatives' voter ID scheme and giving 16 and 17-year-olds the right to vote. Finally, holding government ministers to account for corruption and sleaze by enshrining the ministerial code in legislation. Reform the House of Lords with a proper democratic mandate. Transfer greater powers away from Westminster and Whitehall. Introduce a written constitution for a federal United Kingdom with strong voices for England, Wales, Scotland and Northern Ireland, and oppose a second Scottish independence referendum and independence. Take big money out of politics by capping donations to political parties. In addition, we will reform our politics to put more power in people's hands by giving 16 and 17-year-olds the right to vote in UK general elections and referendums and local elections in England. Extending the right to full participation in civic life, including the ability to stand for office or vote in UK referendums, local elections and general elections to all EU citizens with settled status and to anyone else who has lived in the UK for at least 5 years and has the right to stay permanently. Introducing a legal requirement for local authorities to inform citizens of the steps they must take to be successfully registered, with far greater efforts in particular to register underrepresented groups and ensuring that the UK has an automatic system of inclusion in elections. Enabling all UK citizens living abroad to vote for MPs in separate overseas constituencies and to participate in UK referendums. Restoring to Parliament, instead of the Prime Minister alone, the power to call and set the date of an early general election. Ensuring that a new Prime Minister and their programme for government must win a confidence vote of MPs before taking office. Taking a zero-tolerance approach to harassment and bullying in Westminster and legislating to empower constituents to recall MPs who commit sexual harassment. Bringing into force Section 106 of the Equality Act 2010, requiring political parties to publish candidates' diversity data. Establishing national and local citizens' assemblies to ensure that the public are fully engaged in finding solutions to the greatest challenges we face, such as tackling the climate emergency and the use of artificial intelligence and algorithms by the state. Make it a national security priority to protect the UK's democratic processes from any threats or interference. Ensure justice for the victims of scandals and prevent future scandals, including by providing full and fair compensation to all victims of the Horizon post office scandal and the infected blood scandal as quickly as possible. Protecting whistleblowers by establishing a new Office of the Whistleblower, creating new legal protections and promoting greater public awareness of their rights. Introducing the Hillsborough Law, a statutory duty of candour on police officers and all public officials, including during all forms of public inquiry and criminal investigation. Make the role of the advisers on ministers' interests truly independent by empowering them to initiate their own investigations, determine breaches and publish their report, putting the role on a statutory basis and giving Parliament the power to appoint them. Introduce new rules to ensure that a Prime Minister must have served for at least 1 year before becoming eligible to access the Public Duty Cost Allowance Fund. Ensure that ministers receive annual training to prevent sleaze. Establish a rigorous, transparent and independent process to appoint significant public roles, involving a confirmatory vote by the relevant Parliamentary Select Committee. Bring reporting standards for the list of ministers' interests in line with the House of Commons Register of Members' Interests, so that publication takes place more frequently. Strengthen and expand the lobbying register. End the scandal of government by WhatsApp by requiring that all ministers' instant messaging conversations involving government business must be placed on the departmental record. Ensuring that a record of all lobbying of ministers via instant messages, emails, letters and phone calls is published as part of quarterly transparency releases. Make elections fairer and more transparent and raise the quality of political debate by protecting and strengthening the independence of the Electoral Commission following Conservative attempts to undermine it. Introducing public awareness campaigns about emerging threats and misinformation campaigns online. Pushing for a global convention or treaty to combat disinformation and electoral interference, supplemented by an annual conference and global counter-disinformation fund to safeguard and promote democracy at home as well as abroad. Mandating the provision of televised leaders' debates in general elections based on rules produced by Ofcom. Working towards radical, real-time transparency for political advertising, donations and spending, including an easily searchable public database of all online political adverts. Reform the UK and strengthen our family of nations around the principles of federalism, working in cooperation and partnership, including by creating a United Kingdom Council of Ministers to bring together the governments of Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland with regional leaders across England. Removing the ability for the UK Parliament to unilaterally change the powers of the devolved parliaments or pass laws in their areas of responsibility. Creating a joint climate council of the nations to tackle the climate emergency by helping to foster innovation and encourage collaborative action. Securing cooperation and agreement through common frameworks and a new dispute resolution process, sharing power, resolving differences maturely between administrations, and delivering better governance. Improving joint ministerial work on new cross-cutting policies, such as the UK Industrial Strategy. Deliver a fair deal for the people of Scotland by allocating to the Scottish Parliament all the powers set out in the Scotland Act 2016, many of which have already been used by the Scottish Parliament, with others delayed at the request of the Scottish Government. Continuing to back city deals in Scotland by bringing together all spheres of government. Deliver a fair deal for the people of Wales by completing the next stage of devolution in Wales by implementing the remaining silk proposals, substantially reducing the number of powers reserved to Westminster and increasing borrowing powers. Creating a distinct legal jurisdiction for Wales to reflect the growing divergence in law as a result of devolution. Devolving responsibility for rail services and infrastructure to Wales, with fair funding and shared governance on cross-border services. Devolving powers over youth justice, probation services, prisons and policing to allow Wales to create an effective, liberal, community-based approach to policing and tackling crime. Strengthening the devolution of powers over broadcasting to tackle the lack of trusted sources of information and democratic accountability that were highlighted during the pandemic. Devolving air passenger duty to put Wales on a fair playing field with Scotland and Northern Ireland and put Cardiff Airport on a fair playing field with regional airports in England. work constructively with the Northern Ireland Executive to build a permanently peaceful Northern Ireland with a stable, devolved government and a truly shared society, including by supporting policies and initiatives that promote sharing over separation and counter the cost of division, helping to grow the economy in Northern Ireland, boost infrastructure and support local businesses, fixing the UK's broken relationship with Europe and accordingly reducing barriers to trade between Great Britain, Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland. Ensure reliable funding for the nations of the UK by retaining the Barnett formula to adjust spending allocations across the UK and protect the individual nations' budgets from external shocks. Ensuring that the Barnett floor is set at a level that reflects the need for Wales to be funded fairly, seeking over a parliament to increase the Welsh Bloc's grant to an equitable level. Establishing a joint council to oversee the UK Shared Prosperity Fund and other levelling up spending, working in partnership with governments, combined authorities and councils across the UK. Support the creation of a UK Constitutional Convention with the aim of drafting a new federal constitution that sets out the powers of the government at each tier, founded on the principles of democratic engagement, liberal values and respect for diverse identities, underpinned by a fair distribution of resources based on respective needs. The Convention will establish an inclusive approach for determining the structure of government in England. Promoted by Liberal Democrats. 1 Vincent Square, SW1P 2PN.